wanted to address something I thought was interesting about the sister wives and their first contact, or the first time they actually openly talked about the LGBTQ plus community on the show. And this occurred during season 4. There was a question and answer episode where the sister wives and Kody sat on a couch and they read from a tablet various questions that came in. Some questions were kind of funny, some questions were kind of cute, I guess, and some questions were a little more meaty. This is one of the questions that I thought was a little more meaty. Let's take a look.
Sarah's asking, how would you react if one of your children came out to you?
Now, right there, how would you react if one of your kids came out to you? How would you feel about that? And I think that that's a very relevant question, because as a parent, you're going to deal with a lot of different things from your children. Now, it seems like, especially the way a lot of our social dynamic is happening right now, that's such a huge, big issue, and you're going to have to talk about it, and it's one of the things that you're going to have to address on some level because it's so prevalent in society. But the truth of the matter is that it's not as prevalent as you think. One. Two, who your child is attracted to is going to most likely be one of the least things that you have to worry about. I'm not necessarily worried about what sexual orientation my child has or whatever. What I'm worried about is making sure that they find a quality of partner that they're looking for. So in my case, when I talk to my kids about it or I address it, I try to be as open to them and available to them as possible, so that way if they have any questions, they have any concerns, they have any issues, that they feel comfortable coming and talking to me about it. That they don't have to feel like they have to hide it or closet it, these things that are going on in their lives. You want to be able to talk to your kids about whatever is happening with them, because you want to be able to give them your guidance, your advice, your wisdom, your experience. And you can't do that if you're constantly telling them what they should and what they shouldn't do. You should be this because it works for me. You should do that because it'll be easier for me to explain to my family and friends that you're married to a bum as opposed to a brain surgeon who just happens to be the same gender. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so you want to have these conversations. I want to make sure that my child isn't being abused by whoever they're with, regardless of what their sexual orientation is. That's the first thing. The second thing is, you can't hide things from your children. You can't hide the world from your child, especially if you expect them to be able to function in the world. Unfortunately, for a lot of people, guess what? You have isolated yourself, and you think that you can isolate yourself and keep out everything that you disagree with or you disapprove of. But the truth of the matter is that those things exist in the world, and you have to teach your children how to negotiate those obstacles, those things, those challenges. And to be honest with you, being of a certain sexual orientation is not an obstacle or a challenge. It's not an obstacle or a challenge. It's what they are. So if you have a child that was born 6'6", you don't say, hey, yeah, it's going to be an obstacle and a challenge because I can't afford a roomy car and I can only afford a little tiny Chevelle or Chevette, or I can't only afford a little tiny Bug. I can't afford a Mini Cooper. I can't afford to get one of them big boat cars. So you're really going to suffer. This is going to be terrible. And you have so many obstacles. Or if your child is born short. Oh, you're only 5'2". Oh my God, you have so many obstacles. I feel so sorry for you. You're going to have so much trouble finding love. We don't do that to our kids. You tell them to work with what you got and deal with who you are and accept who you are. And part of that acceptance is us being open and honest and willing to accept them for who they are. Now, going through, there are a lot of interesting answers that were given. I kind of mixed them up a little bit because I want to go for what I view to be maybe the best politically correct answer, I guess you could say, or the most verbally accepting answer. And I say that because I'm not sure how genuine the person is who's giving the answer, but we're going to go through them. So the first person, ironically, is Kody. Kody gives probably the best politically correct answer of all the participants. Let's take a look at what he had to say.
We've determined that we will accept our children with whatever they've whatever their relationship or their lifestyle is.
So he says, we'll accept our kids for whatever relationship or lifestyle that they choose. And I think that that's the right track. Like, you want to be able to give your kid the guidance, because to be honest with you, whether it's a heterosexual relationship, homosexual, paramorphic, whatever you want to call it, polyandrous, whatever it is, you want to be able to give your kids the insight, because at the end of the day, people are people and relationships are relationships. We like to try to put them in a special box if they're not something we're familiar with. But people deal with people how people deal with people. There are people who are good for you and there are people who are bad for you, irregardless of what your orientation is. And you have the ability, if you're open-minded enough, to be able to lend your expertise to your child, to be able to give them the guidance so that they can pick a proper partner that will accentuate and elevate their lives, as opposed to somebody who is just coming in to define them. And I have an issue with that as well, because there's so many people who find themselves in a situation because they're being rejected by their parents and society, that they find definition in the orientation. The orientation shouldn't define you. That's not some part of who you are. And I think that that's the majesty that many people don't realize when they're talking about these particular issues. You're more than just a person that you're attracted to. That's not the end all and be all for you. There's more to you than that. There are more things that make you up as a person. You have more value than who you want to put your thing in, who you allow to put things in you. Like, you are more than that. And I would say that for heterosexual, homosexual, whatever, queer relationships, whatever you want to call it. The next person who I thought had a very interesting answer was actually Janelle, the person who read the question out. Like, her answer, I think, is the most logical of all the people on the stage, and it presents and opens the door for us to be able to have a real genuine conversation about it, because this is something that, you know, she should really be thinking about. Let's take a look.
And I'm assuming this means came out as a homosexual. And you know, I've thought about this because the odds are, with as many children as we have, the odds are that we could have one or two. And
Hell yeah, you gonna have one or two, at least.
I've really thought about this, and I don't think it would disrupt my world any.
And I appreciate that answer, because at the end of the day, when she says, I don't think it will disrupt my world, it doesn't question or change how you feel about your child. It shouldn't. It shouldn't change how you feel about your child. If your child married somebody who you didn't like or you didn't necessarily approve, are you all of a sudden like Hatfield and McCoys because you don't approve of the person that they're marrying? Like, it's such a weird thing for you to do, and it doesn't help you. It doesn't help your child. Now, the next person who had kind of a logical answer, and I see where she was going with it, and I agree with it to a point, is Christine.
You know, I talked to one of my kids, and she goes, what if I chose to bring home a girlfriend? How you'd feel? She was just...
And they like to challenge.
Exactly.
Like to challenge
and this is what I said. I said, well, then you couldn't have her come play in your room. Because right now, boys aren't allowed in your room. And if this is a committed relationship, you better bring her over so I can meet her. If she's not right for you, though, I'm going to put up a fight, just like I would if you brought home a boy who wasn't right with you, too.
I think that Christine's answer made sense, especially from the regard of, she's saying essentially to one of her kids, and I'm wondering which one it is, because we kind of have an insight, or I can make a guess as to which kid came forward and said, hey, what if I like girls? And because she came forward and said that, Christine took the very logical answer of saying, you know, especially if it's a child I'm thinking about, she was very young at the time, by saying simply, look, if you are of a certain orientation, then I have to treat your kids or your friends the same way I would treat boys, because these are potential people that you would possibly be interested in. So if I don't want you to be having coitus upstairs, period, as a house rule, then I'm not going to bring in people who you are attracted to in that manner. Point blank. So I don't necessarily disagree with that mentality, because fair is fair, right is right, equal is equal. So if I wouldn't allow my daughter to bring a boy upstairs who she may be attracted to, I wouldn't allow my daughter, if she was lesbian or queer or part of that community, to bring somebody who is somebody who she would want to have that type of relationship with, I wouldn't allow her to take them upstairs either, because frankly, I'm not going to give the fox the key to the hen house. Like, it's just not how I roll. So, there are certain activities and things that I don't support for children. But as they get older and they become adults, you have to allow them to become the people that they are. And you can't stop them from being the people that they are. I will say this. Kody's interruption of what Christine had to say was hilarious to me. Because I get the distinct feeling that despite what Kody later said, and I presented that early, what Kody said was essentially, oh, no, but our kids aren't that way. Yeah, they challenge us. They like to challenge us. They like to say things that they don't mean. So we don't believe that that's what it is. Like, she just saying that because she want to make me upset. And the fact that you would get upset by that says a lot. Like, it's very, you kind of self-snitching on that front. Because despite the fact that you said you're open and you could see past anything that they come forward with, you just admitted that if they did come forward with it, that you would dismiss it as them joking or challenging you or being difficult. So you can't walk on both sides of the street at the same time, brother. When push comes down to shove, even though they're of a certain orientation, rubber meets road, they're going to have problems. The same problems you would have in a heterosexual relationship, you're going to have in a homosexual or queer relationship. You're going to have the hard breakups. You're going to have the difficult conversations. You're going to have potentially cheating. You're going to have things that occur in that relationship that aren't necessarily good for your child, and you want to be able to give them guidance. It doesn't mean that you have to have a specialty degree in order for you to have an opinion or a position on how your child should be treated. No, I don't think that if you are in one relationship, all of a sudden it's okay if your partner wants to get physical with you. No, I don't think that it's okay. I don't think that it's okay if you're in a monogamous relationship, irregardless of the orientation, that it's okay if one of the partners decides that they're going to go out and step outside that relationship. So you have to be able to have those common sense conversations with your kids. And again, this is the part of it that elevates it beyond. It's not just you accepting that this is what they're doing. It's you recognizing it and then moving past it. Because they are bigger than just that thing. The issues that they're going to face are going to be bigger than just a simple orientation. Which brings us to the final person, which is Robin, who, in my opinion, gives the worst answer. And I will explain as to why. And I think she gave the worst answer in my personal experience with people who think like this.
To answer this question honestly, I would be sad for a child that realized they were homosexual, because that's a hard life.
Agreed.
My heart would go out to them. I'd feel really sad on a level, because they would face so many prejudices as well and so many challenges. It's not an easy life. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges, is whether or not their family loves them and accepts them.
And that's where I'm going to stop it, because at the end of the day, save your pity, lady. Save your damn pity. They don't need you to feel sorry for them. What they need for you to do is accept them for who they are. That's who they are. It's not, I feel bad for them because that's what, they have such a hard life. Life is hard. That's what life is hard. Life is difficult. Life is not easy. Life is not made for the weak. Life is very hard. And so as you get older and as you make it through certain situations and certain realities, you start to realize that life is difficult as is. It doesn't matter who you like, how you like them, what you do with them, or whatever the case may be. Life is hard. It's hard for people who are straight to find love, just as it's hard for people in the LGBTQ community to find love in relationships. It's hard for you to find a compatible partner. It doesn't become easier because all of a sudden you're involved in a heterosexual relationship that you're going to find love and it's easy for you to do that. That's not true. Hell, you can ask most of your sister wives who are sitting on the couch in a loveless relationship with their supposed husband. So the thing that annoyed me about this particular situation is that, in case you haven't realized it, for many of the people who are watching me on YouTube, I'm a black guy, and I'm not part of the LGBTQ plus community, But I have had situations where I've dated outside my race, or as they say, I played in the snow, as it will. But regardless, I didn't limit my dating options to I have to date this person because that's what be socially acceptable. I didn't do that. And when I didn't do that, and I would step outside and I would see different things, there would be an occasion where somebody would have that same damn sentiment where they would say, well, what about their lives? Things will be difficult for him and her. What about their children? Somebody think about the children. And it occurred to me early on that if you were really concerned about me and you really gave a damn about me and my relationship and the people I'm with and my potential children that I would have from that union, then it would be a lot easier if for everybody involved, if you accepted us, if you didn't make it difficult, if you saved your pity and just looked at me as a person who is in a relationship, as opposed to looking at me with some kind of other mentality that somehow you're something different. That's all the LGBTQ community really wants. As far as I know, I'm not I won't say not an advocate, but I'm not the person who speaks for them because I'm not in the group. I'm not part of I'm not the best spokesman that they have. They need somebody who intimately understands their issues. But what I am saying is that from what I understand, these are people who just want to be seen as Slow it down, Playboy. These are people who just want to be seen as people. It's not that they want to be seen as something different. They want to be seen as something special. They want to be seen and held up on a pedestal. They just want to be accepted. It is a very difficult thing for you to do, to want to spend your life trying to be accepted by other people. And this is where you get older, you become more mature, and you just run fresh out of give a damn. And you don't care what people think anymore because you find your own happiness. And that's what I would encourage them to do. And that's a maturity and a thick-skilled trait that many people in these types of situations develop. But at the end of the day, if things become to the point where you just don't notice it and you don't recognize it, then it is what it is. Then everybody in that situation is happier, and everybody in that situation can deal with their lives, how they deal with their lives and the issues that come up in their lives that probably won't even have anything to do with their particular orientation. There's so many other things that we could fight against, rail against, and be concerned about that this in and of itself is such a small thing to spend so much time on. My name is James. This has been my take on reality, and I'm out. 'Cause I've been living